Tonight at 10, at least 36 people are killed as Russia launches a wave of missile strikes across Ukraine. A children's hospital is hit in Kyiv. Some young patients had to be evacuated, still connected to IV drips. We'll be live in Kyiv, Moscow and Washington with all the latest reaction.
I am not going anywhere.
On the line, Joe Biden. He phones in to a morning TV show and says again he won't quit the race for the US presidency. In her first speech as Chancellor, Rachel Reeves promises hundreds of thousands of new homes will be built every year. Novak Djokovic brushes aside Holger Rune in straight sets to reach his 15th Wimbledon quarter-final.
I'm the same as everybody else back home. I can't wait to find out what's happened.
And what's occurring? One of the stars of Gavin and Stacy talks to us about filming the last ever episode.
On BBC London, the family of a teenage drowning victim vow to help others and ease their own grief. And off to Westminster, we meet some of London's new MPs.
Hello, good evening. Russia has carried out a massive and deadly bombardment of Ukraine the day before a NATO summit begins in Washington. At least 36 people have been killed and 140 injured, according to President Zelensky's office. In the capital, Kyiv, the main children's hospital has been largely destroyed. Members of the emergency services have been trying to clear the rubble by hand in a search for survivors. Well, today, 5 cities across the country were attacked. Russia has denied targeting civilian infrastructure, insisting the strikes had been aimed at military facilities. Let's go tonight to our Ukraine correspondent, James Waterhouse. James.
This is an attack which stands out. It has been condemned by the United Nations and the new UK government, and Ukraine has promised to retaliate, but we don't yet know what that could mean. But this, as I say, is going to be seared in the memory of many Ukrainians. But there's also a hope here that some of Ukraine's allies, NATO members, might look at what happened today and want to speed up Ukraine's accession to the alliance. But that still remains a distant prospect. A warning that our report contains images that some of you might find distressing. Frantic desperation on a Kyiv summer morning. People help with their bare hands at Ukraine's largest children's hospital. Even for a war-hardened city, this was a missile strike which broke the grueling rhythm of Russia's invasion. Some of the young patients were being treated for cancer, already fighting for their lives. They illustrate how these attacks don't discriminate.
We were in the middle of surgery when the windows got shattered. The surgeon quickly covered the baby to save him. I want the world to stop this. These children are innocent.
Tatiana had a near miss.
We got here 5 minutes before it all started.
Then, the search for survivors stops for another missile alert. An underpass acts as a shelter this time. Residential buildings were also hit in Kyiv. Here, bodies were recovered. Other cities were also attacked. On a visit to neighbouring Poland, President Zelensky promised a retaliation.
Beyond any doubt, we are going to rebuild everything that these terrorists have destroyed. And beyond any doubt, we are going to respond to these savages from Russia. Everybody who was injured will get the necessary help, and we pledge to work on bringing Russia to justice.
Ukrainians often describe a daily weight on their shoulders. Sirens sound in cities like Kyiv all the time, and occasionally explosions will follow, and occasionally it's a big one. Now, you can see people singing as they're giving out water. Attacks like this don't really influence the battlefield, but what they are designed to do is terrorize and suppress the Ukrainian people. For a second time, rescue teams have to find cover because of another air alert. Only on this occasion, they sing the Ukrainian national anthem underground. A dark day for a city still defiant. James Waterhouse, BBC News, Kyiv.
Well, as we said, these attacks have come on the eve of a NATO summit, which is due to focus on the war in Ukraine. We'll talk in a moment to our defence correspondent, Jonathan Beale, because he's in Washington for that summit. First, though, let's head to our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg. And, Steve, there has been international condemnation of Russia. What reaction are you hearing? What are people saying in Moscow?
Well, the Russian military today said what it normally says: we do not target civilians. We did target military industrial sites and air bases. And as for the destruction in Kiev, it blamed that on a Ukrainian air defense missile. Now, Ukraine insists that it found remnants of a Russian cruise missile. Now, what has the Russian president been saying about these devastating attacks? Absolutely nothing in public. I mean, earlier this afternoon, Russian television showed Vladimir Putin marking what is known here as the Day of Russian Family and Love. And then his guest arrived, the Prime Minister of India. Now, it was Prime Minister Modi who told Vladimir Putin to his face 2 years ago that this was not a time for war. And I wonder what Mr. Modi would have been saying to Vladimir Putin tonight in the light of these attacks. But really, this is one of those days where I feel most acutely the chasm here between reality and appearance. Because only on Friday I was in the Kremlin listening to Vladimir Putin claiming to be committed to a diplomatic solution to the war in Ukraine. And 3 days later, dozens of Russian missiles launched at Ukraine tell a different story.
Steve, as ever, thank you, Steve Rosenberg. Let's talk to Jonathan Beale at that NATO summit. To what extent, Jonathan, do these dreadful attacks today change the discussion, the debate that will be had there?
Well, Ukraine was already top of the agenda for this, the 75th anniversary summit of the military alliance. And no doubt about it, these attacks do give it a sense of urgency, particularly with the arrival of President Zelensky, who has been appealing to NATO allies to give him more air defences. He has been given some Patriot batteries, but not in the quantity he says his country needs. That's one of the issues that will be addressed here. Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, has managed to get allies to commit to spending another 40 billion, that's 30 billion pounds, $40 billion on Ukraine's military support for the next year. What he hasn't been able to do is to turn that into a 5-year commitment, what's been called Trump-proofing that military support, and that is because of the political uncertainties. He has strong support from Keir Starmer. This will be his first big test, the British Prime Minister, on the international stage. He's made clear NATO will remain a cornerstone for Britain's security, and he wants to speed up military aid to Ukraine. But the question gnawing in the heads of many leaders here is, while yes, they're expected to show unity on Ukraine, will it be the same next year? Especially if Donald Trump, a past critic of the alliance, a critic of giving weapons to Ukraine, is elected a second term. That is the elephant in the room.
Jonathan, thank you. Jonathan Beale in Washington. President Biden has said he's not going anywhere after phoning in to a morning TV show in America. It comes after a growing number of senior members of his Democratic Party have privately joined calls for him to pull out of the presidential race after a disastrous performance in a TV debate with Donald Trump. Our North America editor, Sarah Smith, sent this report.
Yes, everybody, oh, we lift.
Seeking salvation for his presidential campaign, Joe Biden started at a church in Philadelphia yesterday and followed up with a busy schedule of events specifically designed to show he's got the stamina required for this election.
4 more years! 4 more years!
And to showcase some of his biggest supporters.
This is the president. This is our guy. This is our nominee. And he is entitled to take this to November because he's been a great president and he's the only person that's ever beaten Trump.
But as Democrats come back to Capitol Hill today after a holiday break, it's expected more of them will call for Joe Biden to step aside. This morning he sent a letter telling them he's not backing down, saying, "I am firmly committed to staying in this race, to running this race to the end and to beating Donald Trump." And he called into a breakfast TV show to repeat the same message.
And I've not lost. I haven't lost. I beat him last time. I'll beat him this time.
And he dared any potential rivals to try to topple him.
If any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me in the convention.
It will take more than this, though, to erase memories of that disastrous debate performance.
Dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
I hear you. Guys.
The White House spokeswoman faced a barrage of questions about why an expert on Parkinson's disease has visited the White House 8 times in the last year.
Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on, but I'm not going to confirm a specialist, any specialist that comes to the White House out of privacy.
In a primetime interview with ABC News on Friday, he said he didn't need to take a cognitive test and that no one could persuade him to stand down as a candidate.
No one said, none of the people said I should leave.
But if they do?
Well, it's like, we're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came out and said, Joe, get out of the race, I'll get out of the race, the Lord Almighty's not coming down.
Vice President Kamala Harris has been steadfastly loyal, as those who want Mr. Biden to step down are uniting around the idea that she should be the one to take over. No one can force him out of the race, but many will keep trying to persuade him to go. In the last half hour, another Democratic congressman has come out and said that he thinks Joe Biden should step aside. Adam Smith said it's clear he can no longer strongly and articulately make his case to the American people. And so this week, Joe Biden will be fighting for his political life at the same time as hosting that NATO summit here in Washington, including a one-on-one meeting on Wednesday with Keir Starmer. And then on Thursday, he's doing a rare live press conference, and that will very much be seen as another make-or-break moment for his campaign.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Sarah Smith. Here, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has finished a tour of the UK. He spent the morning in Belfast with political leaders there before going to Cardiff to meet Wales's First Minister. He's also been meeting his party's new MPs who have been arriving in Westminster in preparation for the House of Commons sitting tomorrow. Our political editor, Chris Mason, reports.
However good your trip to work was this morning, I reckon you weren't applauded and serenaded on the commute like this new MP for Plaid Cymru, Anne Davies. With the national anthem of Wales ringing in her ears, the trip from Carmarthen to Westminster began. It was flowers rather than song for Green MP Carla Denyer in Bristol. It was a laptop and a flask for others, hauling suitcases, a sense of wonder and pride to Parliament.
It's all been a bit of a whirlwind and there's a lot to take in, but I'm really excited to get started and see how it goes over the next few days.
How was it walking into that chamber for the first time?
Really incredible.
Down the road, put your name on a sticky label and smile. There are 72 Liberal Democrat MPs now.
It was worth bungee jumping.
He's tried to become an MP plenty of times before. Now he has the envelope. Reform UK's leader Nigel Farage has spent the day in his constituency in Clacton in Essex.
I shall have to read and memorise all of this by tomorrow morning.
First stop for Keir Starmer today, Belfast, meeting the First and Deputy First Ministers of Northern Ireland. By lunchtime, he was also being serenaded in Welsh. He was at the Senedd in Cardiff, meeting Wales's First Minister and talking to reporters. TV interviews usually start with asking the guests to introduce themselves. So here goes.
Your name and title for level.
Keir Starmer, Prime Minister. It's very important to me to reset relations with Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, because I want to make sure that we collaborate, there's mutual respect and trust.
Back in Westminster, this is what a whopping majority looks like. The Prime Minister had a photo call with his MPs, but for every winner, a loser, as the defeated depart.
Mixed emotions, absolutely discombobulating. Coming in here, back to Parliament, and meeting others that are just starting their parliamentary careers, and I'm having to pack up and go.
The brutality of democracy arrives in reverse and on four wheels in British politics. Change is in the air, the chest of drawers is in the van. Chris Mason, BBC News, at Westminster.
Well, more from Chris in a moment, but before that, Rachel Reeves has made her first speech as Chancellor. Speaking to business leaders at the Treasury, she said economic growth would be Labour's national mission. More housing will be central to that, and the new government will bring back house building targets which were scrapped by the Conservatives. There'll also be a loosening of planning regulations to allow more building on so-called grey belt land, areas which border the green belt. And there will be new onshore wind farms, something the last government effectively banned. Here's our economics editor, Faisal Islam.
Britain's biggest wind farm is currently this one in Scotland, just outside Glasgow. The new government has just lifted the ban on new onshore wind like this in England and fast-tracked their approval. Part of this planning revolution will also reintroduce mandatory targets for house building and allow more flexible use of the green belt for development. And all that was announced to key business investors gathered at the Treasury to hear the new Chancellor's plans for growth and targets for 1.5 million new homes.
How prepared are we to make the hard choices and face down the vested interests? How willing even to risk short-term political pain to fix Britain's foundations?
In history, we've only had this level of house building when the state has been involved. Are you relying too much on the people behind me from the private sector?
We need the private sector to build homes. We're not going to be in the business of building those homes directly.
If this big bang of planning reform works, we will see hundreds of new wind turbines, hundreds of thousands of new homes built across the country every year. And they're not just expecting there to be political flashpoints locally, they're essentially saying, bring it on. They want to demonstrate to investors that they're willing to take some political pain in order to give them certainty to boost British growth. House builders were unsurprisingly supportive.
That is all looks good for the industry, but they have to deliver. We've had over 10 years of under-delivery and there's such a backlog.
The Green Belt is areas of countryside, mainly around major cities, that restrict their growth in terms of house building and industry, most clearly seen in London and between Liverpool, Manchester and Leeds. Labour's plans are designed still to concentrate development in existing brownfield areas, but to release land in some more mixed areas they have termed grey belt. High-growth Oxford and Cambridge, for example, might no longer be severely restricted. Campaigners are sceptical.
PRE's research shows that there are enough brownfield sites to deliver 1.2 million homes already. So they
no need to go on the green belt.
Well, we don't think so. No.
New cabinet ministers are often spotted in high vis and hard hats. The government wants spades in the ground across the country and quickly. Faisal Islam, BBC News.
Well, meanwhile, the Prime Minister is expected to authorise emergency measures this week, which could see criminals freed after serving less than half their sentence. It's a key challenge facing the new government after prison governors warned jails could run out of space within days. There are more than 87,000 people behind bars in England and Wales. Overall total capacity is, as you see, 88,864. That means prisons are at 98.5% capacity. Our senior UK correspondent, Seema Katecha, reports.
Everyone's talking about being at crisis point. It is at crisis point. We can't sustain this length of being full for so long as we are.
There's an emergency in prisons in England and Wales. They're overcrowded and at bursting point. And the consequence, dangerous criminals who are jailed by the courts could have nowhere to serve their sentence. One governor says he's never seen it so bad. He's not supposed to speak to the media, so we've hidden his identity.
We're having to make single cells into doubles, and certainly we're doing that regularly. There are times when men can't really actually sit up in their bunk bed without their head hitting the ceiling. That just doesn't feel right. This is probably the worst I've seen it in my service in terms of consistently not being able to deliver what I want to deliver.
The Prime Minister says, like the previous government, he will continue releasing people early to make room, but it's not clear yet how many and when. How to sort this problem divides opinion. There are those that think early release sends a signal that the new government is soft on crime. They argue for longer sentences as a deterrent and punishment. Then there's building new prisons, which takes time. The government says it's clear that a shorter-term fix is needed. Jason was inside for drug offences and was released early just weeks ago. He says support on the outside is key.
All of a sudden, within maybe 24, 48 hours, you're getting ushered out the building swiftly. It's the resettlement that it's really lacking in. So you can release people as much as you want. If you don't resettle them, it's not going to do anything.
The new government says it will get to grips with the situation.
There isn't going to be a quick fix, but we're going to have to deal with the legacy that we inherit. But I think it's been totally irresponsible the way the Conservatives have handled this for not just recent months, but in fact for years.
Tackling this crisis will be one of its first big tests, with critics watching closely. What it decides could be a tough pill for some victims to swallow.
There's loads of new initiatives coming out about early release schemes. Have we even got places for people to live when they're being released? If they don't have anywhere to live, we're just almost setting people up to fail and reoffend.
Seema Katecha, BBC News.
And Chris Mason, our political editor, is with us as promised. And tonight, Chris, we're hearing about the shadow cabinet.
Yeah, so the Conservatives are having to cobble together an opposition front bench after loads of their now former ministers lost their seats. Lord Cameron, the former Prime Minister who Rishi Sunak kind of politically exhumed as his Foreign Secretary last year, is not going to be the shadow Foreign Secretary. Instead, Andrew Mitchell is going to do that job. And the Conservative Party Chairman, Richard Holden, who just managed to hold a seat for the Conservatives. You can see him here on election night looking nervous. Little wonder he won by 20 votes in the end in Basildon and Billericay. He has resigned as Conservative Party Chairman. Richard Fuller will replace him. Meanwhile, the party's trying to work out a timeline for the leadership race for those who want to replace Rishi Sunak. Political wannabes are limbering up. I was at a do tonight, which was nominally a birthday party for the former Security Minister, Tom Tugendhat. I'm not sure how many birthday bashes you've been to when the speech from the person who is celebrating makes reference to getting Brexit done and education reforms before slipping in that it's his 51st and his birthday was a couple of weeks ago. So a sense there of what is going on as the wannabes don't quite show their hand yet, but show a certain intention. There'll be plenty more after what is one of the toughest jobs in politics, Leader of the Opposition, who are rather keen on it.
Chris, for now, thank you. And just to tell you, Victoria Derbyshire will have more on the government's first week on Newsnight on BBC Two shortly.
Yes, how will Labour handle the prison overcrowding crisis? Our political panel will bring insight into that. Plus, we'll ask, will Keir Starmer's MPs back him on planning reform? See you in about 5 minutes.
That's Newsnight coming up now. England's Euro preparations are continuing in the run-up to Wednesday's semi-final against the Netherlands. But there's been controversy in the build-up after it emerged that the referee selected for the match served a 6-month ban for his part in a match-fixing scandal in 2005. Our sports editor Dan Rowan reports.
Semi-final is a mouth-watering clash between Spain, who have won all 5 of their games, and a French side that struggled to live up to their billing, with superstar Kylian Mbappe still recovering from a nose injury.
That was a proper heavyweight contest.
But then all eyes will turn to another blockbuster fixture. England, after their penalty shootout heroics in the last round, taking on the Netherlands.
We don't get to a semi-final, neither do the Dutch get to a semi-final by not having top players and top resilience as a squad. So it's about us focusing on ourselves being the best version of us come Wednesday to get the result.
But there's been controversy over the choice of referee for the match. German Felix Zweier served a 6-month ban for his role in a match-fixing scandal in 2005. Today, however, teammate Luke Shaw played down concerns.
I think we have to respect UEFA on whoever they decide to pick as the ref. That won't change anything about us. I think we still just focus on the game in hand, not too much about what refs we've been given.
It's us that have more the ball than England, so it's more England that's running. But yeah, I expect a high-intensity game. Yeah.
England continue preparations here with plenty of hard work ahead if they're to reach Berlin on Sunday. That would mean not only a second successive Euros final, but also a first at any major tournament overseas. England have not yet produced free-flowing football, but they keep finding a way to win. Their campaign here could yet have a glorious conclusion. Dan Rowan, BBC News, Blankenheim.
In France, President Macron has asked his Prime Minister to remain in post for the time being to ensure the country's stability, as he put it, after a snap general election left no party with an outright majority. Negotiations between the parties, which have different aims and priorities, are underway. Our Europe editor, Katia Adler, joins me from Paris. Where does this leave President Macron then, Katia?
Well, it leaves him with a big old question mark hanging over him. Has this gamble to hold a snap election paid off for him? And the answer is yes, but also very much no. Yes, he gave a clear choice to the people of France. Did they want to have a new government led by the hard-right nationalists of Marine Le Pen? And like he hoped, most voters in France said, no, thank you. But this same election has left France in political paralysis, and a lot of people here blame their president for that. No bloc or political party has enough seats in Parliament to govern, and the kind of political bickering that's going on now doesn't help voters with the things they worry about, whether it's migration or the cost of living crisis. And this paralysis doesn't just weaken France at home, but also abroad. Like Keir Starmer, President Macron now jets off to Washington for a NATO summit. There'll be talk of strengthening support for Ukraine. Keir Starmer will want to have bilateral talks with President Macron and other European leaders as he starts now to try to reset relations with the UK. But privately, a lot of the leaders at this NATO summit will look at President Macron as a bit of a lame duck. For years, he's been criticised as being arrogant and all-controlling. And now he's having to watch that control he once had unravel.
Katia, thank you, Katia Adler. Now, the day at Wimbledon ended in controversy after 7-time champion Novak Djokovic accused the centre court crowd of disrespecting him following his 4th-round win against Denmark's Holger Rune. Laura Scott reports.
At times, Wimbledon might appear to exist in its own bubble, but sometimes events outside are impossible to ignore. For Ukrainian Alina Svitolina, emotions were close to the surface, her black ribbon only highlighting where her real focus lay.
You know, it's a very difficult day today for Ukrainian people. So yes, it was not easy to focus today on the match, and you know, since the morning it's very difficult to read the news, and just to go on the court, it's extremely tough.
With big names having fallen or bid farewell, there is one familiar face still standing who should be in the twilight of his career, but is defying both age and injury to make the last 16 for the 16th time. 7-time champion Novak Djokovic putting Holger Rune, 16 years his junior, in his place. Racing to an early lead, and then racing to the bathroom. It had acrobatics and antics. And a row with the crowd.
I don't accept it. No. I know they were cheering for Rune, but that's an excuse to also boo. Listen, I've been on the tour for more than 20 years, so trust me, I know all the tricks.
He said the crowd couldn't touch him. As his remarkable run continues, neither can any of his rivals. Laura Scott, BBC News, Wimbledon.
It may only be July, but some people are already thinking about Christmas because filming is about to begin on the last ever episode of Gavin and Stacy, which will air on Christmas Day. David Sillito went to meet one of its stars.
Jo, lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Where are we?
Joanna Page. The explanation for meeting at a wildlife hospital is because she's working here for a forthcoming TV series.
So did you honestly just say you triaged a pigeon?
Yes, I've triaged many things now.
Can we go and see a hedgehog, please?
Yes, of course, follow me.
But her time with the hedgehogs is almost over because important filming is about to begin. The final return to her most famous role. Stacy in Gavin and Stacy.
Oh, can you believe we're actually going to meet tomorrow? Yeah. Oh, my goodness. How old are you? I reckon I'm about 17. It's going to be so funny getting us all together again and just seeing what we're all like.
More than 18 million watched the last Christmas special. It left us all on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Will you marry me?
Surely she could give us a clue as to what's happening next.
Marry me.
5 years, isn't it?
I know. Well, I'm the same as everybody else back home. I can't wait to find out what's happened because I remember all those years ago reading the script for the last special, and I was doing it on my phone, and I got to the end, and then it says Nessa goes down on one knee and says, you know, will you marry me? Can't remember what she says. And I remember going on scrolling and going, what? That can't be the end. That can't be the end. What does he say? What does he say? So I'm the same as everybody. What happens?
You must know.
No, don't know anything. Not even seen a script. So I just hope, because I've not seen anything, that I haven't, you know, signed on to be running around on Barry Beach in a bikini, because I'm not doing that at the age of 47.
I know you know something already.
I genuinely don't.
I bet you do.
Honestly, I crossed my heart.
There's no one listening. There's no one listening
Crossed my heart. I can't even tell you anything. Crossed my heart. Literally know nothing. I cannot give you anything at all.
No, nothing.
The time has come. Oh, hang on. You don't have to do this, Bryn.
Not on Christmas.
We're going to have to wait until Christmas. David Soletto, BBC News, Leatherhead.
The weather right now with Sarah Keith-Lucas. Hello.
Hi, Jane. We've had quite a lot of cloud, more outbreaks of rain, but not everywhere today. There's also been some clearer skies across northern areas, and this beautiful picture, couldn't resist showing you this, the colours as the sun sets over Derwent Water there in Cumbria. But as we head through the next few days, it's staying fairly unsettled. Into Tuesday, there'll be some rain pushing its way northwards, and things are going to feel more humid than they have done towards the south. So we've got low pressure moving in from the southwest at the moment. As that pushes these frontal systems northwards, that's going to open the doors really for more of a humid airflow to start to come in from the southeast. So not as chilly out there overnight as it has been. It's feeling a little bit muggy actually, where we've got all this massive cloud and rain moving slowly north across England and Wales. It's heaviest at the moment for the southwest of England and South Wales as well. It'll start to ease in the south, I think, by the end of the night, but really through the central slice of the UK, a wet start to Tuesday morning. Under the cloud and rain, 13 or 14 degrees, but with the clearer skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland tonight. Temperatures falling to around 7 or 8 in the towns and cities, lower than that in the countryside. So we'll keep a bit of sunshine through the day across the northern half of Scotland. But look at this band of rain pushing its way north across central Scotland, Northern Ireland. It's going to be quite heavy and persistent too. Further south, some sunshine through parts of the Midlands into Wales as well, but still some showers lingering for East Anglia and for the southeast too. So top temperatures around about 21 or 22 degrees, but a bit cooler towards East Anglia where you've got those showers, and certainly a little bit cooler at the high teens further north. What about Wimbledon? Still a chance that we could see a little bit of rain coming and going on Tuesday. It does look like a better day by the time we get to Wednesday though. So first area of low pressure clears away through the middle of the week. Towards the end of the week, there's another area of low pressure moving in towards the south, but really a bit up and down over the next few days. More showers around at times, but at least for a few days, a little bit warmer in the south. Jane.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And that is the BBC News at 10. Now, time to join our colleagues for the latest where you are. Good night.